right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Please let me know that you can hear me. You could see my wonderful co-panelists, Michael and Laura, and you could see our lovely title slide. Let me know by saying Happy Tuesday and tell us where you are broadcasting from. So, Happy Tuesday from New York City. Michael, Happy Tuesday to you.
Happy Tuesday. I am also in New York City. Happy Tuesday to you, Laura.
Happy Tuesday from Copenhagen. So actually Tuesday evening. It's dinner time here.
Okay, Laura's coming to us from the future. Happy Tuesday, Laura and Michael. And Michael, we got to get a drink later on after this webinar. And hello to our chat. Looks like we have Barcelona in the chat. We have Austin coming in fast and furious now. Amsterdam. We have Seattle, Rochester, Michigan, Atlanta, Canada. All right, Cincinnati, Austin, Minneapolis, New York, Phoenix. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Keep it coming. Denver. All right, I love it. Hello, we'll get started. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to in-house counsel and in-house legal professionals from all across North America and the world. Welcome to In-House Connect. My name is Shai Mahani. I'm the CEO and co-founder of In-House Connect, and I'm thrilled to have you here with us today. Thank you for spending your breakfast time or your lunch time with us or your dinner time with us. And special thanks to our wonderful sponsor, Wordsmith AI, and our fantastic presenters today, Michael Bernstein and Laura Jeffords Greenberg, who are going to teach us the AI, or they're going to demonstrate the AI advantage for in-house legal teams, and we're going to see practical insights from Wordsmith and Trustpilot. This is our 20th webinar of the year, and I'm wondering, are you here for the first time, or have you tuned into an IHC webinar before? While you're taking the poll, I have some quick housekeeping announcements. First, as always, at our In-House Connect webinars, we want you, our dear audience, to get involved in the program. And there's a few ways you can do that. The first way is by participating in our polls. We have some good poll questions coming your way and some where you can fill in the answer. So we're very eager to hear your insights and your thoughts. So please participate in our polls when they pop up. Additionally, you can also get involved in the program by participating in our chat box, as so many have already, to encourage active discussion and engagement in our chat. And here's some guidance on how to engage in our chat box. The first thing we love to do is encourage people to network with each other, and our friend Paco has gotten us started. So if you're curious, how does one network at a virtual event? It's really simple. Draft a blurb about yourself. Tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do, what your company is, and include a link to your LinkedIn profile page. Take that blurb, put it in the chat, and voila. Networking. People will connect with you, you will connect with others, and then you can take the relationship offline and go from there. And then maybe, if you don't take steps to meet virtually or in real life, maybe you'll meet at one of our mixers, as I've had the pleasure of meeting so many people at our mixers. Either way, we love to encourage networking, so feel free to network in the chat, as so many have already. It's wonderful to see. Besides for networking, the chat is great for questions, for reactions, for comments. AI is on everybody's minds these days, especially in-house counsel. It's a transformative technology, and I'm sure you have lots of questions and concerns and curiosities about it. So if that's you, you've come to the right place. Put your questions and reactions in the chat. Laura and Michael will be happy to tackle them. Please keep in mind, obviously, that the chat box is recorded. It is publicly available and may be shared afterwards. So keep that in mind as you engage in the chat box. Next, just to be clear, this is not a CLE webinar. No CLE for this one, but rest assured, we have tons of CLE coming your way. Tomorrow, we have a trade law summit, which will be 4 back-to-back CLEs. So definitely sign up for that if you haven't already. And then we just have, again, more CLEs on the horizon. I'll share a link to our upcoming events page so you can check it all out and sign up if you haven't already. And as I mentioned before, mixers. We are hosting mixers across the country. I'm going on planes, trains, and automobiles, and I'm meeting people left and right. Last week, I was in Austin and Houston, and shout out, I see some people from there. Shout out Sarah in the chat. It was awesome. This week, we're going to be in Miami, and then in a couple of weeks, we'll be in Palo Alto, and then much more on the horizon. So if you're interested, check out our upcoming events page to see what our mixer schedule is looking like. Again, lots of great stuff on the horizon. So I look forward to meeting everybody at our mixers. Okay, let's get to today's program, the AI advantage for in-house legal teams, practical insights from Wordsmith and Trustpilot. We have a wonderful panel starting with Michael Bernstein. Michael is a goal-focused, tech-savvy, in-house legal professional. He has successfully led legal operations of financial services and technology companies by crafting effective strategies, robust contracts, and efficient processes. Michael has experience in developing, drafting, and negotiating commercial contracts with customers, partners, and suppliers across US and EU regions, and he has keen interest in the adoption of SaaS and tech-based innovative solutions, including automation and AI. From crafting comprehensive strategy to execution of commercial agreements, he helps businesses generate innovative solutions and automated tools to enable scalability and efficiency throughout the sales cycle while simultaneously identifying and mitigating risks. It's wonderful to have Michael with us today, and he is joined by Laura Jeffords Greenberg. Laura is in-house counsel and an AI legal consultant. She leads educational initiatives designed to empower legal professionals to embrace and integrate AI in their practice. She focuses on creating innovative learning programs and offering strategic guidance to help legal teams work smarter with AI. And she, as the inaugural head of the AI Legal Academy at Wordsmith AI, she leads educational initiatives designed to empower legal professionals to embrace and integrate AI into their practice. Her work focuses on creating innovative learning programs and offering strategic guidance to help legal teams work smarter with AI. Wonderful panel, great topic. I know there's more to be said, but I'll let Laura say it. So Laura, welcome to In-House Connect, and I'll turn things over to you.
Well, thank you so much for having Michael and I. So we're excited to talk to you today. Before we start, just want to let you know I work for Wordsmith AI, and we have 2 promotions that we are providing only to In-House Connect members. I'll tell you more about that later, but just want to flag that up front in case you have to drop off for a meeting or something like that. So now I want you to imagine for a second that you've spent months learning how to write Excel formulas because you want to get data out of your contracts and then present it to your leadership. And then ChatGPT comes out and you can write those formulas in like 2 seconds. Well, when I was talking to Michael, that's exactly what happened to him. I also had a similar moment when I was creating employee handbook policies for all 50 states, right? Painstakingly going through that. And then ChatGPT comes out and you're like, oh my God, this could have made my life so much easier. Well, today we're going to take you through Michael's journey of implementing Wordsmith AI at Trustpilot. But before we do that, we're going to jump to the polls. We want to keep this interactive. Please, use the chat over there also to ask questions. We'll be keeping an eye on that. So the first poll that we have is, how often do you use AI at work? And this is actually going to help us sort of gauge the audience and see where we are. If there's a whole bunch of people that say never, obviously we're going to tailor the presentation a little bit differently. But actually really interesting, I don't know if you have anything to say about this, Michael, is it's looking kind of even between daily, weekly, monthly, and then also never.
I'm definitely encouraged by the amount of daily users. It's always good to see that people are getting into this stuff and really just digging into it. So I'm very happy to see that. And for the rest of you, we're going to see what we can do to turn you into daily users.
Yes, that's part of this, right? Evangelizing. So I know lawyers like guideposts. Very briefly, as advertised, we're going to briefly talk about life before AI at Trustpilot. What are some of the pain points that I'm sure everyone is familiar with? Then we're going to talk about real world use cases and why is it in quotations? Because I learned about what Trustpilot was doing, but obviously we can't show you what they're using because that's their data and they can't show that. So then I went and tried to replicate what they're doing. And I'm going to also have Michael sort of critique what I put together and then tell you what they're actually doing. And then lastly, we're going to get to those implementation insights. So how do we move forward? And when we say, how do we move forward, right, we're talking about this AI divide. I use this in most of my presentations. So we're assuming right now that we're sort of sitting in this competency bucket. So you have access to AI tools. You have understanding of how to use them. You've been educated. You understand their limitations and you understand the benefits, but you don't understand how you should use them in your workflows, right? How are you going to get the strategic use out of them? So we want to move you from competency to integration, where you have access, understanding, and you understand strategically how to use AI. And I think that's what Michael has been doing at Trustpilot so well. And so that's why I'm excited to have him, talk more than me at this presentation. One distinction I want to make at the beginning here, when we say broadly AI tools, we're really focusing on chat tools. But I'm going to make a distinction between broad purpose AI tools and legal specific AI tools. So broad purpose AI tools are the ones that ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, Perplexity, Gemini. Those we're considering broad purpose AI tools. They weren't meant and created specifically for the legal community. Then we have legal specific AI tools that are meant for the legal community. That is who they are created for, and that would be our tool, Wordsmith. And what's different about legal specific tools, right? They all have sort of similar functionality, but obviously there are differences, but a lot of them are going to enable you to work in Microsoft Word. They're going to enable you to redline. They're going to know what redline means. I keep trying to get ChatGPT to redline things. The best I can do is get it to put the changes in red font. Legal AI is also going to understand the workflows and that you need precision. So we're making that distinction and when we're talking about AI. So really quickly in the chat, because we do enjoy using this chat functionality, I'm keeping my eyes on multiple places now. What AI tools do you use at work? And here we go. We also have a poll there. So if you're using AI tools at work, what tools are you using? Please, let us know. I guess I don't know if it's poll or I can't see it right there, or the messaging. I don't know. We'll take a look at that in a second. Do you want to tell us?
So folks, answer in the chat. I thought we would be able to see. This is our first time using this functionality in Zoom. So I learned something new today, as well as Laura and Michael.
Yeah.
So please answer in the chat as well. And I'm going to see what we can pull out of that. But yeah, a little bit of blooper reel, I guess, for the in-house Connect.
That's okay. That's great.
Stay tuned. I'm coming back.
We're pushing forward on things. That's great. So when I'm looking to the side, I'm also looking at the chat and seeing things coming through. So please keep putting those in there because we'll come back to them. But let's jump in now. Let's move into life before AI. And really quickly, just so you can understand how both Michael and I fit in, very briefly, my personal AI journey. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'll just tell you, when ChatGPT came out, I was working as interim general counsel at Worksome, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is my opportunity to show that we can do so much more with less. I really want to impress them so I can stay on afterwards. So I'm going to figure out how to use ChatGPT for my legal work to blow them away. So that's what I started with ChatGPT, and then it became an obsession. I started posting about what I was doing on LinkedIn. That led to me accidentally, not on purpose, creating a consulting business. And then that led to me testing out a whole bunch of legal AI tools and giving feedback on them. And then I joined kind of the perfect job for me now at Wordsmith, where I'm the head of the Wordsmith AI Academy. So my job is to teach you, the legal community, about AI and push all of us forward in using AI. So that's my personal journey. And now I'm going to hand it over to Michael.
Hey, so similarly, ChatGPT came out and really kind of blew my mind in terms of capabilities. So around that time, I started playing with it, experimenting, trying to figure out what kind of use I could get out of it as a lawyer, generating templates, helping respond to certain types of emails or inquiries. And the real moment for me came early in 2023, as Laura had previously mentioned, when we were using basically spreadsheets to generate data out of various different aspects of what we do. And I was writing formulas to basically help consolidate and synthesize that data into useful insights. And some of these formulas were taking me hours and hours to write just to get correct. This was like a new sort of programming language for me, if you will. And, there was a point where I had spent almost 6 hours working on this very complex formula. And a couple of days later, I was like, let me just try to plug that into ChatGPT and see what it can do. And within about 5 seconds, it gave me a formula that was about 10% of the length of the one that I had done and worked perfectly on the first try. And that was really the moment that I was blown away. And I was like, this is going to be something I'm using on a regular basis moving forward. So a little bit later in that year, Trustpilot started looking into AI, specifically in the legal space. I basically spent that whole summer taking demos with a lot of the companies that you guys are listing here, something like 20 demos over the course of the summer and fall. Later in the year, we ended up deciding to go with Wordsmith and have been working with them since the beginning of 2023. And basically, I'm sorry, maybe that was 2024, but we've been working with them for about a year and started launching, workspaces and dedicated tools for our team, our junior staff, our salespeople, some of our HR team, basically getting AI implemented throughout everything that legal touches. And as of this year, I was selected to be a Trustpilot AI ambassador, which we've recently signed up to use Gemini across our whole business. And so I've been helping to kind of roll out that process and implement and enable Gemini and other AI tools across our whole business.
I need to unmute. Yes, that's awesome. Sorry, that's my fault on that typo. So I really appreciate you sharing that journey so people can really see, I think from here, like it's taken a while, right? This just didn't happen magically. So let's talk about what it was like at Trustpilot before you started going through this process of using ChatGPT and then eventually Wordsmith.
So I'm sure this is going to be something that's very familiar to all of you guys. A lot of manual, repetitive processes, answering the same questions over and over again, providing the same documents over and over again, doing a lot of conversion of documents, basically administrative work of attaching PDFs to each other, taking one contract and, attaching it to another document, stuff like that. Individual processing of requests, very little automation. Everything was kind of handled on an individual case-by-case basis, very manual intensive, very time consuming. I'm sure none of this is unfamiliar to a lot of you guys. As lawyers, a lot of times, it's expected that we should be using our brain every single time to do every single task. And the reality is, that was not an efficient way of working. We were slow. We weren't capturing really effective data. There were all sorts of, flaws and gaps that we were kind of missing that automation and AI have been able to help us fill.
Perfect. And yeah, I think everyone's familiar with that. So for those of you that are using AI, we want to know also in the chat, what's the most important task you rely on AI for in your work, right? Is that contract drafting? Is it simply catching typos, emailing, presentations? What are you using AI most in your work? And we'll be interested to see those results. But while you're typing that in, we will move on. And so for those of you who haven't used AI or is not familiar, we're going to move beyond prompts today. We're not focusing on prompts. We're talking about building workspaces and workflows because we're talking more about strategic use of AI. So when I say workspaces, what is that? For Wordsmith, it is very similar to a GPT in ChatGPT or a project in Claude. It is where you are creating your own little ecosystem. So in workspaces, you can upload files, a variety of files. It doesn't just have to be documents. And then you can work with them and it's integrated in maintaining that persistent context. So you're going to have a persistent context when you're using the chat within a workspace of the files that you've uploaded and also the custom instructions. Plus there's collaboration features and you can create multiple specialized workspaces. So what are some of the use cases that Trustpilot used? And I'm just going to go over this briefly and then we can go to the videos and we'll talk about those, right? They used it for contract negotiation support, for contract review efficiency with our first pass tool, and also for productivity gains. So we're going to jump right in, and this is me replicating what Trustpilot has done and spent hours. So this is our workspaces. You can see we have a whole bunch of them. I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a new workspace right now. And I want this workspace to help me answer security questionnaires. You'll see that I'm terrible at typing, but I go in and I fix it. So I name my workspace Security Questionnaire Helper so it'll be easy to find. And now I've created that. I'm going to go in here and put in just some custom instructions. These can be very short, or they can be very long. For the sake of this demo, everything I'm doing is very short. And so I just say, act as a senior paralegal helping to thoughtfully complete security questionnaires based on our existing questionnaires. In the next step, you'll see me upload documents. So I'm going to upload some of the completed questionnaires into the workspace. So there you can see there are no sources. So I need to add a source. We can connect directly to Google Drive, to Notion, but I'm just going to upload this so you can see that, see what I'm uploading. I've got my security questionnaire, and then I have also all of my security policies, right? Where hopefully we're outlining what we're doing. We're going to upload those, and then we're going to go in and ask a question. And so Michael, can you just tell us a little bit about how you're using the security questionnaire helper that you created?
Yeah, so we were seeing a lot of lag time in terms of the time it took to respond to questionnaires. Our customers, rightfully want information about how we protect their data, how we, secure our platform, understanding basically what's happening when they use our services. So, we had at Trustpilot at one point a single employee on our security team who basically spent his entire day filling out questionnaires for our customers, essentially his entire job. And that's obviously not a good use of a, very experienced security professional who has very, strong technical knowledge, who could be spending that time, defending the platform and establishing better security practices and really working on strategic goals that make us a more secure platform rather than just filling out paperwork. So basically what we did was we uploaded a large chunk of our existing previously filled out questionnaires. And now our security team has access to this, as well as our commercial legal team, so that we do get these questions. We have a quick, reliable way to go check on them, to basically deliver those answers. And so we're currently in the process of getting this to be even further automated and getting it to the point where it can actually fill out the questionnaires themselves on its own. But right now, what it does is it creates a really, really helpful repository for all this information. So previously it was a lot of Control F search for a specific word, trying to find something across dozens of existing questionnaires or databases or policies and trying to figure out if the answer we gave in 2022 is technically more accurate than the one we may have given in 2021, where two different people were filling out the same, a similar questionnaire and gave slightly different answers. There's inconsistency there. There's all sorts of trouble. Who has access to all the right documents? Is there, an adequate place where we're sharing everything? And this has allowed us to centralize that entire process into one place for our security team and our legal team so that they can collaborate together and quickly get the answers that are consistent, that are accurate, that we know are backed by our documentation. We can include citations if we need to, as you can see here. And this has really streamlined the process of getting those answers back to customers, which helps to shorten the deal cycle, which of course helps to close more deals. So this is a great tool. I'm sure you guys have security, privacy teams who, you ask to help support filling out these sorts of questionnaires for outbound sales. And this is a great way to streamline that process, to get answers into the right hands that you're confident in, that are accurate, that are consistent from customer to customer, all the while speeding up the process significantly. So you're going to save time, you're going to get a better output, you're going to get a more consistent output. And this has been a lifesaver for our security teams and, allowing them to spend more time on important strategic goals rather than just filling out paperwork for our salespeople.
And this, what you're sort of seeing in the background is I just created this quickly for me. So it does not have a robust security policies. I just created security policies quickly on Wordsmith AI as examples and uploaded them. And then you saw that it was able to take the previous answers and answer the questions that it could, and it redlined those. But then it left a lot of them blank, and that's on purpose because I just haven't provided that information. And I don't want it to make up or hallucinate information. I only want it to answer from the existing documentation. And so that's why you saw a lot of that was blank. I simply hadn't provided that information. And then I said, can you please, it's not on there now, but can you please let us know all the questions that we haven't answered? So then now we have a list of questions that, okay, we need to answer. Once we answer those, we can then go back to the repository, as Michael said, and put them in there and update the workspace. So the next time we get a questionnaire, those questions will be able to be answered. So that is definitely a great use case of workspaces. Now we're moving next to the contract negotiator. And so, Michael, I'll let you sort of take over. And remember, this is the one that I created. So I'll let you tell them about yours.
Yeah, so the idea here was basically to help our team negotiate contracts. We have, a number of junior staff and paralegals who we want to enable to kind of be able to dig in and get some experience with these. And so in order to do that, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with contract negotiation playbooks. I'm sure you guys, have those already built out. But ultimately, when you're negotiating with customers, occasionally you come across someone who's really savvy or who has, a very specific need that they need to have incorporated that, our playbook going into this was a list of things that customers generally ask for. So it was kind of the frequently asked questions or, frequently requested changes. And we had, basically a playbook response for that, some fallback positions, some, stances that we kind of talking points and those sorts of things. But it was still a very manual process. And we would ultimately run into a problem where, if the customer came to us with a question or a change that we didn't have a playbook position for, all of a sudden we were kind of working from scratch again. What we built here is basically a tool that can identify changes in our contracts. So we can upload basically, straight out of the redlined contract, if they go and delete something and add something else, we can copy and paste that text directly into this tool. It does a three-step process, which is basically a chain of thought, which is it identifies what changes have been made to the provision. It then basically takes the implications of those and describes, why this is good or bad for us. And then the last step is it drafts a response that we can send directly to the customer. So rather than trying to come up with something completely novel on the spot when you get, either a really strong request that, sometimes they just make sense, right? Like sometimes you're like, hey, you got me there. I need to, come up with something, an answer for this. Sometimes you don't necessarily have a playbook response ready to go. This enables us to respond specifically to the exact changes that the customer is asking for, while giving consistent policies, sticking to our positions on our contract, enforcing our policies across the board. And so it's a really great way to enable some of your team who maybe is less experienced or who is not necessarily onboarded fully yet, who doesn't have the full scope of every single way that you talk about your contracts. This is a way of making sure that everyone across your team is basically following the same guidance, using the same playbooks, using the same talking points, and arguing the same points across your entire contract. And so what we built out here was basically an AI playbook. And we put in the contract section, we gave it the information of whether or not it's negotiable. Some of our provisions are simply not negotiable. We explain why those are, the reasoning for that. And then we explain what our interests are. What are we protecting? Why is our provision written this way versus another way? And then, gave it a basic explanation of why we don't actually negotiate. So similar in sort of the third and the fifth column there. But more context just generally tends to, help and give you stronger answers. And so when we submit, for example, a change to the limitation of liability, I can either say the customer wants the limitation of liability expanded to, 5x the last 12 months fees, or I can just copy and paste the clause that they've submitted directly into the tool. It's going to then review all these things. It's going to take the position of like, is this something that's flexible or not? It's going to then, evaluate the change that's been made. If it's multiplying it to 5x fees, it's going to basically evaluate this is something that would expand Trustpilot's liability if we were to sign this contract. And then it takes those interests and those positions that we give it, and it basically creates a pushback position. So, in the case of limitation liability, that's a pretty straightforward one. But, everyone's contracts have unique aspects that are, generally speaking, unique to their product and are included in a contract because it applies to their product. And, one of the things we see a lot is customers who come and they go, well, this provision that looks different than it normally does should be changed to look like, it kind of does in other places. And you generally go back and you explain to them why, in our context, it makes sense to have it this way. And we find, that pushback tends to be pretty effective. And so we basically created a tool that helps us do that quickly, efficiently, consistently. And that way we know across all of, our conversations, we're pushing the same positions across all of our team globally.
And one of the reasons I really like this, because one of the things that I've been thinking about is how do we train junior lawyers with AI? And so you're also explaining this to the junior lawyers, both from the legal positions, but then also from Trustpilot's position, right? So you're educating them about the law and you're also educating them about the company. So I think this is a great tool, one that helps for customers, but also then helps keep consistency across the whole business and then educate and onboard new employees as well. And I do see there is a question here. Do you use this on your own paper as well as customer paper?
So currently, basically this specific tool is used for our outbound sales contracts. So this is based on our contracts. Obviously when you're reviewing customer contracts or, vendor contracts, partner contracts, you don't always have a playbook to go into their contract because you don't always know what's going to be in there going into it. So we are going to get into the first pass tool coming up in a few slides, which is how we handle customer contracts and, when we're dealing with external paper. But this specific tool we're using internally for our sales contracts.
And that's a perfect introduction because the next slide is first pass. So this is an email. I've just gotten an agreement and I'm actually going to forward it to Wordsmith AI to the SaaS first pass tool. So what it's going to do is it's going to take the attachment. You don't have to say please review. I just typed that there. And it's going to send it over to Wordsmith and then boom, I get an email back. Not that fast, but we don't want to make you wait. I click on it, it takes me over to Wordsmith. So now I'm in Wordsmith and this is our first pass tool where I've just uploaded a vendor SaaS agreement and it's told me it's detected 3 minor issues. Here in the gray box, it tells me the key details of the agreement. And this is right, most lawyers, this has been pulled out by lawyers. We've created this, customized this. We have additional follow-up questions you can ask, but what we really like about First Pass is that we have all of these checks. So for the standard one, we have 21 checks, and we're going to either flag it as like a showstopper in red, which we don't have any, whether there are minor issues, which are in yellow, and then it explains why there is a minor issue, and then you can see which ones have passed. So warranty from the vendor, no IP infringement. Okay, that's passed. I can click on that, go over here, see the AI comment, and what we know is important is to verify that, right? We don't suggest that you use anything directly from AI with any clients. So we provide ways that you can verify it. And now we've actually done a first draft markup of that agreement based on the checks that you saw over there. So now we're redlined, and we've also added comments. So we've explained to the customer why we've made the changes that we've made based on the playbook checks. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to download it as a Word document, and you're going to see me open it. We are, as I was thinking about this, we are a startup. So I am doing all these videos. At some point, we will maybe get a little bit more professional videos, but you can actually see it's very small. It then says Laura at Wordsmith AI. So your username of your account is then put into the comments. So it looks like you've reviewed the agreement, you've made all of the changes, and then you've also added the comments. So then you can go in and verify that. So that's a really great way to go ahead and get, a first round of edits, and that you can redline it and you can share it with people. So it's also collaborative. You can also customize it. So we give you the ability to start with our general playbooks, but then you can add a new check, you can delete a new check, and then it automatically updates. And then if you make it customized, you can then save it as your own playbook. So one of the things that is very important to us, having, all of us at Wordsmith are either engineers or lawyers or both. We have some unicorns there, but we know that we can't sell every in-house counsel the same thing. We have to enable it to be customized. And so that's what we've done. So I don't know, Michael, if you want to talk a little bit about how you're using the first pass.
Yeah, and I see there's a question about having separate playbooks for procurement and vendor agreements, and this is basically how we do this. So at Trustpilot, we have several first pass tools and playbooks built out. We have basically for SaaS, we have ones for NDAs, because I'm sure you guys see this a lot, where you send your NDA and they go, actually, we have to use our NDA. And then you get into a whole conversation. How nice is it if you can spend about 90 seconds just really quickly reviewing their NDA and making sure that it is basically the same thing as your NDA, and you can quickly identify the points where, oh, actually, we just need to change the governing law and jurisdiction and extend the term for 1 more year. You can very, very quickly do that without having to open, a Word document or really read a whole lot. So basically what we're doing is we've got several playbooks built out for several different circumstances. Very similar to this. This is saving us a ton of time in vendor review. We're still working on like a full case study, but so far what we're seeing is we're saving about 6 minutes per page reviewed, which you can imagine when you get a 25-page contract ends up being a significant amount of time saved, because you don't have to spend it, multiple hours reading line by line through every single thing. You're not going to get distracted by some weird way that they phrase, whatever policy it is that you're like, wow, that's so interesting. I've never seen that before. Next thing you know, it's been 20 minutes and you're still stuck on the same page. This is a very efficient way to get answers very quickly as far as what you're reviewing. So you don't need to, keep your playbook out next to you. It's already automatically in there. It's going to know exactly what you're looking for. It's going to identify those issues. This just from the standpoint of like the evolution of AI, these types of interfaces and workspaces are like gold. Because you can imagine you could do something like this with a chatbot, and you can upload the document and then you can say, here's my various policies. Can you please check them? This is doing all of that immediately, quickly. It knows your playbook. It knows your positions. It can show you very quickly what it's looking at. So every once in a while, you might think, I'm not sure that I saw the same thing it saw. It's going to give you that clause right here in the dashboard. You never have to open Word. You don't necessarily, if it's a PDF, you're not going to have to worry about, trying to do the formatting and stuff like that. So this is an extremely, extremely effective way to review contracts, save yourself time, make sure that you have adequate checks on every single aspect of your playbook. There is no kind of getting lazy towards the end of that, really long contract where you go like, we're just fine with this. We'll live with it. I'm not even going to look for that thing anymore. This is a complete check of every single thing that you need to be aware of, and it's going to tell you directly why exactly it does or does not comply with that. And ultimately, that's just going to save you a ton of time when, again, saving you time while also generating a really strong output that you can rely on.
And I see some questions about whether or not you need to have a playbook, and you don't. So I've tried to, make the demos just short examples so we could talk about Trustpilot. But we have, I think, I think 8 standard ones, right? We've got SaaS, we've got vendor, we've got events, we have a variety of different built-in ones. So you can build one off of those, or also you can upload an agreement and then have it build a playbook for you. The third option is if you need something more complex, you can work with our engineering team and we can make you a bespoke playbook based on your agreements. So we really want to make sure that we're cutting out that work. Like, we don't want to go be like, well, you don't have a playbook, so we can't help you. No, AI can help you create a playbook from your agreements. It might just need a little bit more tweaking and work on your end, right? We also want to make sure that we set expectations. This is not a magic bullet. It is not going to be first draft perfect. It's going to take some tweaking and some work to get it right, but we're happy to help you do that, because once you put in that work and you get it right, like if you're saving 6 minutes per page on vendor agreements, that's a huge amount of time, right? So it's worth it to put in that upfront work. And then really quickly, one more feature, and then we're going to jump to the implementation insights, because I want to make sure that we get to that. We have a feature called reviews, and this is where we are running promotion for In-House Connect. And this idea is that I'm uploading thousands of agreements, hundreds of agreements, connecting it, any type of agreement, and then I'm running reports. And again, you can do some of our out-of-the-box ones, or we can customize them for you as well. So there are a lot of different ways that you can do this. For one example would be like, can we raise our prices? We've got customer agreements that are, let's say 10 years old, and we've matured as a company during that time period. I need to review all of these agreements and see if we can actually change the price. You can run a report on that. Or as someone who has worked at a company that went, an acquisition crazy spree, I had to review manually all the assignment clauses to see what we had to do with all the agreements when we purchased a company. I don't have to do that anymore. And personally, I think that's absolutely amazing, because I can't tell you how many hours I spent, control finding the assignment clause and then going and putting information in a spreadsheet. So you'll get the information about, we already have it in the chat there. You can go and check out the 2 different promotions that we have. But I also am conscious of time, so I want to make sure that we get to those implementation insights. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this, right? 70% of in-house lawyers have experienced a failed legal tech implementation. Now, this is pre-AI. And we want to make sure that this same pattern does not repeat itself when we're doing AI. And why is that important? I thought digging down into this a little bit more, it was very interesting that when these tech projects failed, it made the lawyers doubt that their employer knew what was best for the business. But more importantly, what I'm seeing, and we're starting to see more data around this, is it made me consider leaving my job. And we're starting to see this around AI, that if you don't have AI in place and you have someone who's working at a company that has AI in place, they're not going to want to come back and do manual work with you. They want AI. So it's actually going to become a competitive advantage for hiring. And this was also interesting. Some of the top reasons why in-house counsels say their work is unengaging and they really don't like their jobs, right? We know about this. And everything that's listed here, almost everything, is actually tasks that AI can help with. So the top one was repetitive tasks that are not complex or sophisticated. Those are the perfect tasks for AI, right? Administrative burdens, again, perfect tasks for AI. The inability to upskill due to lack of technology, right? Again, we can use AI to give time backs and also upskill your workforce at the same time. So I just pulled that out because I thought that was really interesting. And now we want more engagement from you. So have you implemented AI tools? And I believe this is a poll. So, yes, successfully. Love to hear about that. If you want to put anything in the chat about what you've learned, that'd be great. B is yes, it's a work in progress. I assume many people are there. There we go. I see the poll up. And then C, yes, unsuccessfully. I'm sorry. And hopefully we can help you fix that. And then D, no, we're just not there yet. So Michael, I'm going to jump really quick to this, mapping out the work. And I know that you guys did something a little bit different. So I think we're all familiar, at least have seen, right? Let's list out all of the tasks that our legal team is doing and then map them, whether they're low impact, low effort, high impact, high effort, right? Where do they sit on this chart so we can get a better idea of what we want to tackle. But I'm a little bit more interested in what you did. So you rated the tasks. So can you tell me a little bit about your approach to this?
Yeah, so when we started using Wordsmith, there was a lot of pressure on us to kind of prove the ROI and show the value that we were getting from it. So beyond just, how intensive and how manual and how, voluminous was every task, we also wanted to understand how easy would it be to show the value we're getting from AI from using it for those things. So we basically tracked 3 different things where we went in and basically graded everything from 1 to 10. How much volume does this task require? How AI friendly is the task? And how easy is it to measure the impact of AI on that? So that allowed us to basically create an average score which allowed us to prioritize the highest impact, most measurable uses for AI in our company, and then make sure that as we built, we were prioritizing things that would have major impact, that would be used widely in large volume, that were good for AI as opposed to complicated, making things harder than making things easier. And we've been able to basically work through this whole list of our tasks, starting from the most, volume heavy AI friendly tasks, all the way down to things that are, one-offs, maybe something that we do once or twice a month, maybe even less than that, but is still AI friendly. That allowed us to kind of not get lost as we went on this journey. We wanted to make sure we were having as much of an impact as we could. And so kind of grading things across these scales and then determining an average score allowed us to focus on the areas that were not just going to be good for AI, but also the things that we're going to be able to really shout about and really take to, our leadership and our teams and really show off as improvements to what we were doing and kind of sell that as an improvement. So this is a great way of just kind of understanding from a basic level, like what are the tasks we should be focusing on? Where should we be putting our efforts? Where do we want to, spend that time? And, this was a great way for us to do that.
And so since this is our first time as a joint presentation, I am going to skip some of the slides. So you'll see those in the slide deck, and we're going to go right to what can we use AI for. And so this is, again, going back to what Trustpilot was doing. So kind of an overview of the implementation journey.
Yeah. So basically starting in 2024, at the beginning of last year, we were setting out to basically try to implement AI. We were like, okay, we're committed to this. We're going to do this. How do we do that? Right. And so at the time, everything was out there. I'm sure you've heard this phrase, a ChatGPT wrapper. Basically, a lot of products out there selling themselves as AI tools that were essentially just chatbots. And so that's where the technology was at the time, and that's what we kind of tried to implement. And so we looked into building chatbots across a wide range of support that we provide, whether that's to our finance team, our marketing team, our salespeople, basically anything that we touch, we were like, is there a way we can build a chatbot for this? That took a lot of trial and error. We learned a lot of lessons in that. We failed plenty. One of those failures was in self-service tools. So, we were spending a lot of time building out a support tool for our salespeople so they could understand what's in the terms, what our policies are, how to explain, certain aspects of our terms. The thing is, we already had a full suite of self-service tools for them called our legal hubs that basically had all of that information already there. It contains all of their frequently asked questions that we've compiled over, basically the decade before that. And what we were finding was that a chatbot wasn't actually effectively replacing that self-service tool. We were trying to replace something that basically took us a very little amount of time to maintain and produce. And we were trying to replace it with a chatbot that took extensive amounts of training and time. And so, we kind of went down a lot of different paths and sort of ultimately realized that, there are certain things that while AI is good for them, maybe they're not the best use of our time. So like when it came to training that legal hub chatbot, which had all that information in it, one of the issues we were running into is because we didn't have basically a list of questions that our sales reps were going in to ask and to find answers to, we didn't know exactly what the full corpus of information that we had to provide that chatbot was, because we didn't know if it had to answer just the most basic, simple questions. What's in our terms? Can I auto renew this? Or if it had to get into extremely complicated factors, involving specific aspects of specific deals, certain features. You don't know exactly what it needs to know if you don't have a sort of existing set of questions that the people you're serving are asking. So, we learned a lot of lessons about, where we were spending our time. And, shortly after that, workflows started coming out, new interfaces, additional kind of ways of working. And that's really supercharged what we've been able to do. We still use a lot of those chatbots. That negotiator tool that we use is still, basically in a chatbot in Slack for us. But, things like First Pass, these other ways of using AI have really, taken us to the next level. We've got integrations with our Zendesk tickets, so our privacy team is able to help generate first drafts of responses. You can imagine that for a global company with privacy law, the way that it's expanded in the US with all these various new laws, in addition to GDPR and everywhere else we operate, it's very hard to keep track of all of those things at once and organize all of that information and make sure you have answers for every single region and every single jurisdiction. So that was something that really helped us, reduce time spent answering tickets, because we had a first draft of every ticket right off the bat based on the jurisdiction, the specific question they're asking, in line with all of our policies. And so as we continue to develop that, it's essentially allowed us to automate a lot of those ticket flows. And so as we've kind of expanded past the chatbot tools, you start to see these specific interfaces that are specifically for a certain task. And that's really where you're going to get, a ton of value out of these tools and where you're really going to see, that supercharge, your efforts.
And I definitely think that is true and agree with you. And I'm going to jump forward to, because I thought this was interesting. So because you are, an ambassador for AI within your organization, what are some insights that you've developed, about the organization in adopting AI? And this is sort of organization wide.
Yeah, so one of the big things I talk to everybody about who, ask me how do we unlock AI in our business is that for the most part, other than maybe the last 2 years or so, the vast majority of the people you've hired for your company were not hired based on their AI skills. And that's not a knock on anyone, that's just realistically, this wasn't a technology you were hiring for until the past couple of years. So there's a very good chance that among your entire workforce, you've got people who've been there for a while, who understand your systems really well, who also are playing around with AI and learning a lot of things and discovering all sorts of uses that you might not know of because, as far as you're concerned, they're a junior support rep or they're, basically just a customer success manager who's been there for a little bit, but as far as you're concerned, they're not a technical support person. Open up AI tools to everybody, and what you're going to find is talent comes out of everywhere. So the people who are, learning to do this stuff on their own aren't doing that based on their title within your organization necessarily. And so by opening up AI to everybody in your entire organization, what you're going to find is pockets of people who have, incredible insights in how to use these things for the stuff they're doing, who you would have never realized if you were taking everything from the top down. That kind of lends itself to the AI friendly environment. Be open to this. A lot of companies have processes that are, not ideal, but it's just the way we do things. And AI can really help with a lot of those. And, you have to be open to exploring how that can work. Maybe for right now, it only helps take care of one discrete piece of that puzzle. But down the line, it might, set you up to be able to handle the rest of that as you kind of grow outward. AI bans, I think, are problematic just because the technology isn't going anywhere. Obviously, you want to make sure it's secure. You want to make sure your data is protected. You want to make sure that you're doing things the right way. Work with your security teams, your privacy teams, your data protection teams, making sure that you're doing it the right way. But the right way to handle AI is not banning it because it's not going anywhere and your employees are using it one way or another. And so endorsing that use, allowing that use is going to, unleash a lot more productivity than trying to, limit everything and, make everything have to be approved on a case by case basis. And then focus on those workflows. It's one thing to have a prompt that helps you respond to it, a certain email. And that's very helpful to say, you're a lawyer and you do this and that. But it's really annoying to type that prompt in 50 times or 100 times or however many times you're trying to use it, or to remember exactly what you put in the prompt last time that got that answer that you were looking for. Build things that are, exist there and sit there and wait for you to come back to them. They have that preloaded knowledge, they have that preloaded playbook or, a corpus of information that you need to kind of pull from. Build those things so that you're not going and uploading 7 documents and saying, tell me what's in these 7 contracts. Upload those contracts and say, when I'm working with these companies, what am I looking for here and there? You can waste a lot of time just typing prompts out, a lot. And so if you know that you're going to use something more than, say, once a week, build a tool for that, whether it's a gem, a GPT, a workflow, whatever tool you're using. Build those tools that you're going to be able to use over and over and over again, because you're just going to save yourself time in the implementation process. And then once you get that tool really up to speed and trained and it's giving you right answers, that's going to supercharge what you can do with it, because you'll be able to rely on it and you're going to be able to get just more productivity out of it generally.
I think that's important, right? This does take time, and I think I've mentioned that before, but it takes time to get exactly what you want in some work, but once you do, then you reap the rewards. So I'm also conscious of time, but what are some of your, your personal insights from doing this as an AI ambassador?
Basically, if you're on this call, you're obviously interested in AI in some capacity. If you're not using it yet, the first thing is just use it. Go ahead and use it. Try it for, something, whether that's writing a letter to your friend or writing a birthday card. I started with Excel formulas and that, everything grew from there. So once you find just one thing that you like it for, that you go, oh, this is actually helpful, that's going to unlock in your brain a pathway to a bunch of other tasks that it's useful for. And so the first step is just to try it and just go for it. Set expectations. This stuff is great. It's not magic. I've seen plenty of demos, where they go, here's what it's going to do. And then they hit enter and you sit there and you go, I don't think it did that, right? These are tools that need to be trained. They need to be worked on. They need to be improved over time. So, a lot of times what I've heard is I tried it 6 months ago and it it didn't work. And so we just stopped trying. If you've tried something in the last 2 years, go back and, and it failed, go back and try it again based on current tools. So even if you tried something 3 months ago, 6 months ago, these models are evolving at a very rapid pace. The competition in this field is extremely fast moving right now. And so, it's not magic, but also there is an extent to which like it is a little bit. And so when you understand what it can and cannot do, when you kind of, as you work in it and you use it for various things, you're going to understand those boundaries a lot better. You're going to start to understand, what, it's going to be really good for this, but we shouldn't waste our time doing it on that right now. And so, making sure that everyone understands these are not magic tools. They're, it's just like a person in a lot of ways. If you just say, go review this contract, you're going to get something back. But that might not be aligned to your playbook. It might not be consistent with your policies. It might be accepting positions that you don't actually want to. You need to explain what your playbook is. You need to give it that context and that understanding. So, make sure you understand what you're getting into. This is a tool. It's not magic. And, it has, just like any tool, there's certain things it's good for and there's certain things it's not good for yet. And so, understanding that's going to really help you, avoid wasting time and, making sure that your efforts are going to things that are producing productivity. And then last, I recommend this book to absolutely everybody who has any questions about AI at basically any level. This is a really, really good kind of first level understanding of like how you should be thinking about using AI. What do you want to be, what areas do you want to be using it in? How should you be using it? How should you be, setting it up in your organization? It's not that long. The audiobook version is about 5 hours. So if you're, someone who listens to long podcasts, you can knock this out in like 1 or 2 listening sessions. It's just really, really good at providing a basic framework for how you should be thinking about this. So if you're like, I know I want to use it, I just don't understand like what that means yet, this is a great place to start. And so I recommend this to basically anybody who's looking for information about working with AI. And I think this sets a really strong foundation for how you can grow from there.
There's 2 things I want to say on that. One, everything is, evolving so quickly. Like Claude just released a new model. I haven't had time to try it. It is hard for us. And even I think Ethan, who wrote this book, wrote about, follow him. Sorry, side note. He is great to follow and read his book. And he even said he's having a hard time keeping up. So there are experts in this field who are having a hard time keeping up with the pace of change and evolution of these products. And also, right, if that's how fast it's going, that is also how fast our product is evolving. So if you wanted our product to do something, odds are that it's already on the roadmap or we're looking at that. Or, I went on vacation for 3 weeks and I came back and the product looked completely different and had new functionality. So it is absolutely mind-blowing. So that's something to keep in mind and definitely, try stuff today because it's probably changed from yesterday.
Just a quick note, if you are feeling overwhelmed by the rapid pace of innovation, that the author Ethan Mollick has a really good Substack called One Useful Thing. And that's where I go to for understanding what the most recent updates are. So he just sent out one the other day about the new Claude model. It's a really great way of just staying in touch with like what's happening because you can kind of blink and a month later everything kind of feels different. And so that's a great resource. He's got prompt libraries, a lot of good resources on just how things are evolving. What's the most current situation? How does this new announcement, how should I understand DeepSeek versus ChatGPT, those sorts of things. So it's a really great resource in addition to that book if you want to have an ongoing sort of level of understanding of how things are moving.
I think like our basic action items, reiterating the same things, right? Everyone on your team needs access now. Whether you're just starting, with Copilot, if you're in a Microsoft ecosystem, you want to start with ChatGPT and not, free version and not put confidential things in, or you want to jump into a legal specific tool like Wordsmith, get started so you can start understanding how to use these tools because you do need to experiment and you do need to fail. So you need to give your teams room to fail, time to experiment. That's where I think there's some challenges. If you want to get the rewards, you need to build that time in and empower your team, give them permission to do that. To start small, right? Start with something like when we're doing automating contracts, we start with NDAs. Same thing, find, small tasks, refine, and then increase the complexity gradually. Sometimes I've seen teams come in and they're like, I want to do this thing and it requires like 7 steps. Well, let's not start with something that requires 7 steps. Let's start with something that requires 1 or 2 steps. Because if you're doing 7 steps, you have to understand how the AI works and then how to prompt it in a specific order. And again, if you have complexity and you're working with us, our engineers will work with you to make sure you get the results that you want. And again, I love this point from Michael. It's that your teams are the experts ask them how they would use AI. So people have asked me a lot, like, I need use cases, I need use cases. I can't give you use cases unless you and I sit down and talk about the work that you're doing, right? I'm not going to be able to identify that unless I know what you're doing. So it's really hard to say, here's general use cases for you. You need to start using AI and then get that one thing, develop that habit and understand how AI is used. So then you can be like, oh, this is where I can apply AI in my own work. And because I know we have 2 minutes, I want to be respectful of time and we didn't get to questions. Very quickly, we've shared the link and we'll share it again. But I have a Maven course called AI Skills for In-House Lawyers. That's over 6 weeks. You get a certificate at the end. You can get 50% off with the code Get Started. And I also work with teams doing customized presentations and workshop for legal teams from using AI tools to implementation. And then as we talked about with reports, which is an awesome feature for extracting data from your contracts, we have an offer here for you. And again, we can provide those links. And I know I put questions here, but Michael, is there anything else that you want to add since I kind of flew through the end there?
I just think in terms of that reports tool, like one of the most useful things that we use that for is we used to get a ton of questions for our marketing team saying, hey, are we allowed to use this company's, name and logo in our slides for, whatever presentation? And then, we would have to go back and check that contract individually. With something like reports, you can do that at scale. And so we could provide our marketing team an automated tool that they could say, here's the name of the customer, here's their Salesforce link, can we use their name and logo? So, if you think about that times all of the questions you get, can you go look up this contract? Am I allowed to automatically renew this customer? What's the termination rights for this vendor? You can, basically get that level of detail through these tools and, enable your teams to basically get reliable information without having to spend, your time delivering it. So there is like an enormous range of capabilities that you can get out of this functionality. And frankly, I think it's like incredible.
And please feel free to reach out to either of us, right? We're both AI evangelists. So we've got QR codes for our LinkedIn. If we've not had time to answer your question, I can see that Lucy, our general counsel from Wordsmith, is answering the Wordsmith specific questions. But definitely, send us a direct message on LinkedIn or go to wordsmith.ai and go to our website, check it out, or you've got the link also in the chat there. And we're really happy, especially me, my job is to educate lawyers in the legal community and legal professionals about AI. So if you have questions, please, let me know, come to me. Often, if you have a question, sometimes I'll then turn that into a LinkedIn post to share that information, or maybe we'll do a blog post on it. Our general counsel has written about how to turn your playbooks to make them AI ready. So we're trying to provide all of these resources to really help everyone upskill, understand AI, understand its limitations, and then also understand the wealth of opportunities that we have to improve our profession. So thank you so much for having us today.
All right, Laura and Michael, what an awesome presentation, super illuminating. There was a ton of chatter in the chat. Do you want to tackle any questions? I see Lucy is still answering questions. So thank you.
Yes.
Is there anything you wanted to touch on in the chat before we break for today?
I do see there's a question about Maven. Yes, we're going to start new cohorts. So Maven works in cohorts. Sign up for the wait list. Well, you can enroll in a course. Now, a lot of what we do is we give about 3 or 4 weeks of on-demand content that you can do on your own pace. And then we go ahead and release additional content. And we have office hours, so you won't necessarily miss anything if you join a current one, or you can just sign up for the wait list and then start fresh with a new group, depending on demand. We might start a new cohort maybe once a week, or once every 2 or 3 weeks. If you have any questions like that, again, please feel free to reach out to me. I love doing this, and I love talking about AI and educating people. So I'm happy to take those directly on LinkedIn as well.
There was a really great question, and we'll wrap up after this. Peter asks, great question, Peter. Is it a logical endpoint of this technology when company A's playbook AI simply negotiates with company B's playbook AI? I'm curious for your thoughts on that, Michael and Laura. Maybe Michael, do you want to weigh in?
I mean, I hope so, right? I think if you're confident in your playbook and, your positions are sound and you're, comfortable with the risk management sort of positions that you've taken, I think certainly I'm not going to set that up tomorrow. That's not necessarily something that I think is ready to go. But in the future, if you can basically establish your positions and send them out into the market, and companies can come to you and basically share their positions, and your playbook and your tool adequately protects your positions and your risks, and theirs does the same, I think everybody wins by making that process more efficient. Like, what do we do when we negotiate? We come together and we explain why this is good or bad for us and why we can or can't have this various thing. If an AI can facilitate that conversation and get you to a neutral compromise position that works for everyone right off the bat, everyone wins. And so, that's probably something that's a little bit far off in terms of like fully automated from both ends. But, I think if the technology continues to advance the way that it is, there's no reason why we shouldn't, hope for that.
And that's what I'm sort of the same position. Like eventually it would be great to get to, right? You have two AIs negotiating, and then what they can't negotiate then gets kicked to the lawyers, right? If they just are at an impasse, then that's where we come in and add our additional value. But we do have to make sure, right, that we have more robust playbooks that have different positioning, and we provide additional context and reasoning, right? If we're going to have these AIs negotiate, they're going to need a lot more information, I think, than what we're currently providing them.
All right. Well, exciting times. And it's so great to have you both to help talk us through what the possibilities are, what the pitfalls are, and what we can expect in the future. Awesome. We're going to wrap up here. Thank you so much, Michael and Laura. Great session. Thank you to our chat, which was super active with lots of great questions. Love that. That's my favorite part about IHC, selfishly, is chat IHC. So thank you, chat IHC, for showing up today. All right, we'll break here. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Another banger. Thank you, guys. That's really all Laura and Michael. They did a great job today. All right, we will break tomorrow. We have a huge day of CLE, so definitely sign up if you haven't already. And Thursday, I'll see everybody hopefully in Miami at the IHC Mixer. Until then, have a wonderful day. Thanks again, Michael, Laura, and Wordsmith. Great job.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.